Johnny Carson dedicated 3 decades to perfecting the craft of late-night TV. He had a knack for reviving faltering discussions and making the most uninteresting guest seem like the most captivating individual on Earth. The Tonight Show operated seamlessly on most evenings. Yet 10 visitors exposed the vulnerabilities in Johnny's facade. They disregarded the implicit guidelines, pushed his limits, and transformed the sleekest program on TV into a battlefield. In this piece, we're exploring the 10 figures Johnny Carson allegedly couldn't tolerate. Number 1. Wayne Newton, loathed for physical aggression. Johnny cracked numerous jokes about Wayne Newton throughout the years, poking fun at his hairstyle, attire, and doubting his manliness. Newton despised this, so he charged into the Tonight Show studio with clenched fists, prepared to fight. He burst into the room unannounced and addressed Johnny directly. I jumped in a car and I drove over to NBC and I walked into his office, and he was there with his producer and whom I had known for a lot of years. And so I said to his producer, "Would you excuse us, please?" I confronted him and he turned pale, and I told him what my intentions were. He wouldn't get up, and so I smacked him. "You really hit him?" "Yeah." "Wow. Like how hard did you hit him?" "Would you like to see?" "No, I don't want to see. You really hit him, but I smacked him open, because I was so fed up with it." Carson, who seldom lost his cool, even behind the scenes, promptly summoned security after the slap. Guards showed up in under a minute and removed Wayne from the premises, as producers observed in astonishment. NBC memos subsequently distributed Newton's photo across the site with a strict directive: barred from the premises without exceptions. That evening, all references to Newton were quickly removed from the scripts. Johnny was enraged that anyone would handle him this way in his own domain. He issued the ultimate and irrevocable order to ban him forever. Wayne never entered the studio again throughout Carson's 30-year tenure. Johnny avoided discussing the event in interviews for years, upholding his typical restraint, but employees murmured that Carson retained a duplicate of the security footage in his desk as a memento that even Sin City's elite couldn't intimidate the monarch of late night. Number 2. Charles Grodin, resented for conceit. Charles Grodin developed a rude demeanor that frequently ridiculed talk show norms and often provoked Carson into real irritation. He regularly debated with Johnny during broadcasts, which Carson detested since it forced him to display his authentic feelings in uncontrollable ways. The notorious 1982 episode featured Grodin declining to talk about his latest book, opting instead for an impromptu rant targeted at Carson for critiquing the book's cost. When I tried to talk about my book in the hardcover, you said $18.95. That's a lot of money for a book. I said it's my whole life. I thought it was. And you said, maybe if it's Mother Teresa's life. You remember those things, don't you? Yes, I do. I didn't know you were that sensitive. You actually remember that. I'm so sensitive. I really can't answer a question from someone who's not interested in the question. I'm very interested in the question. It's all right. It's okay. I'm used to Carson's jaw visibly tightened. His replies grew annoyed and defensive. Producers in the booth scrambled to cut to commercial break early, signaling frantically to camera operators. Should have started out with $9.95 then. This would have been $460 by now. I suppose the thing is to get it when you can. Are you whispering again? Oh no. You said I'm whispering last time. Yeah, you talk very softly for me. I don't know why. Are you hearing me? This is what you sound like. Are you talking made a book? No. Why? I think so. Have you seen those little whisper things that people get who are just on the edge of going completely deaf where you hear something? I'm going to get you. I think it's me. Yeah, I think you're losing it. Well, maybe it is me. And now you want to know why I mistreat you. That's right. Now people don't understand when you come out here. Backstage after the show, Carson reportedly told his staff, "I book him to promote a film, and he turns it into a therapy session about my manners. That antagonistic style led to tense appearances that left everyone uncomfortable, and at times a temporary blacklist from bookings. Grodin flourished by generating unease, but Carson succeeded by preserving total command of the program, rendering his visits pointless to him. Number 3. Dean Martin, resented for intoxication. Dean Martin's boozing was intended as a gimmick to amuse viewers. However, during his Tonight Show spots in the 1970s, the boundary between persona and actuality faded. Martin showed up for recordings with a drink in hand, mumbling through anecdotes and forgetting queries. "How you been, Joey? Hello? Good to see you? How'd all these people get in your room? I know you're going to ask me a question. I'm going to ask you a question. Well, you go ahead, Bernie. Did you, at home, this desk looks bigger. It is bigger at home." What came across as endearing on his variety program felt awkward on Carson's platform. Carson attempted to join in, but the rhythm was disrupted. Martin would cut in during segments, drift toward the orchestra, or overlook which film he was advertising. "Well, we're going to come back in a minute. I'd like to talk about your special. I have a special. It's coming up Sunday." "This Sunday? Oh, is it? They actually put that thing together. I didn't know that." You said it the best. Staff allocated additional time because Martin's parts were erratic. In one 1978 episode, Martin uttered an inappropriate comment about a female visitor that compelled producers to react hastily. Carson's expression showed alarm. He swiftly transitioned to a break. Censors noted several instances. The crowd chuckled uneasily, uncertain if it was scripted. Post-recording, Johnny expressed frustration. "I can't operate this way. It's no longer amusing." Martin's invitations grew infrequent. His image as a pro had deteriorated. Carson had constructed his program on precise pacing and authority. Martin's inebriated routine, whether genuine or staged, was too disorderly for TV. The Tonight Show demanded accuracy, and Martin introduced disorder. Number 4. Yuri Geller, resented for fraud. Young Carson honed card illusions in his Nebraska room. It's no shock he later invited the famous Yuri Geller to his program in 1974. He truly aimed to evaluate him and confirm his authenticity. He provided sealed containers and a stone compass, objects Geller hadn't handled prior to broadcast. He entered the set assured, displaying his signature smile. Johnny requested him to interpret texts hidden in thick envelopes. Geller attempted for minutes, but failed to execute the feat he boasted about demonstrating, leading to endless justifications. "You know, I'm surprised because before this program, your producer came, and he read me, 'Please, 40 questions you're going to ask me.' Well, I can ask you all kinds of questions if you like. If you'd like me to ask you questions, I have to have time and, give me a little more time. All right? Would you?" "No. We'll cut away from a commercial and I will verify, and everybody in the studio will verify that nobody will touch the objects." "Okay." The crowd fell into uneasy quiet. Johnny waited calmly for his subsequent act, then handed him the cutlery. Geller seized it, gazed intensely, and compressed the handle, but it remained straight. Johnny arched an eyebrow silently. Yuri attributed the failure to anything except himself, reluctant to confess he was a fake. The portion extended for 20 painful minutes. Tonight, show executives decided he would never reappear. Carson informed them he had exposed himself as a deceiver before millions during the broadcast. He inflicted the harm on himself. Number 5. Chevy Chase, resented for improper taunts. Chevy Chase committed a critical error in 1978. He mistook fame for invincibility. His initial Tonight Show appearance 2 years before had proceeded well. Gentle exchanges, courteous humor, the type of introduction that secures repeat invites. But by his follow-up visit, Saturday Night Live had elevated him to celebrity status, and celebrity made him imprudent. He strode onto the set as if it were his. In moments, he boasted about ticket sales and likened his professional path to Carson's. The audience giggled anxiously. Carson's grin remained fixed. Then Chase overstepped the boundary no one dares. He quipped about NBC requiring new talent at 11:30, suggesting he was prepared to assume the role when Johnny wearied. The team backstage traded looks. Carson's pencil drummed the desk in a way his crew recognized as impending issues. Chase continued, unaware. He interrupted Carson's inquiries, redirected every response to himself, and offhandedly claimed he could likely outperform and out-host the man in whose seat he sat. By the ad pause, the harm was irreversible. Backstage post-recording, Carson drew producer Peter Lassily aside and clarified his stance. No one jests about supplanting him. Not on his platform, not before his viewers. Chase joined the roster of visitors who exhausted their goodwill. Subsequent invitations became scarce and tightly controlled. The relaxed interaction disappeared. Carson never let it go. Privately, he cautioned his team that certain connections would remain severed. Number 6. Frank Sinatra, resented for broadcast disruptions. Frank Sinatra's connection with Carson was intricate. Dominance games, prima donna antics, and behind-the-scenes tension made Carson cautious. "I grew up with you, listened to your music in high school and so forth. It just occurred to me, crazy thought this afternoon. When you're in a romantic mood and you're trying to make out whose records do you put on, applause." Sinatra wielded power and instances of humiliating Carson's associates. Sinatra would charge onto the stage without warning during intervals, upsetting Carson's meticulous progression. One memorable evening in 1976, Sinatra emerged mid-recording, took a seat beside the planned visitor, and began sharing tales. Carson grinned for the lens, but fumed internally. Control room personnel hurried. The intended portion disintegrated. Post-broadcast, Carson emphasized that Sinatra's spots needed prior orchestration and firm limits. Even so, Sinatra's unpredictability kept Carson vigilant. There was admiration between them. Both were sovereigns, but also fatigue. Carson never completely trusted Sinatra not to commandeer the program. Their meetings stayed courteous, but vigilant. Number 7. Joan Rivers, resented for treachery. Joan Rivers served as Johnny's prized visitor for years, a humorist who could occupy the seat when Carson took evenings off. She grasped his cadences flawlessly, honored his dominance, and provided chuckles without overstepping. Johnny had uncovered her, guided her, offered the opportunities that changed her from faltering comedian to familiar figure. She hosted Tonight more than any other substitute. Then, in 1986, Rivers took a late-night anchoring position at Fox without informing Johnny beforehand. She inked the deal, consented to rival him head-on, and never made the call. He discovered via sector rumors and a trade publication, not a direct conversation. Carson felt deeply betrayed. He thought she never adequately informed or expressed regret to him. He viewed it as the utmost disloyalty. The lady he had coached for more than 10 years. The comic he had lifted from anonymity had betrayed him by turning into a competitor. Carson prohibited her from Tonight instantly. No debate, no goodbye spot, no opportunity to clarify, just quiet. Rivers attempted contact frantically, notes dispatched to his residence, communications via go-betweens. But Johnny rejected all efforts. He never conversed with her again, not even in later years when her program flopped. Executives knew not to propose her name. The prohibition endured until Carson's departure in 1992 and afterward. Rivers would subsequently state openly that losing Johnny's companionship pained her more than any career obstacle she faced. For Carson, fidelity was absolute. She violated the principle, and recovery from such disloyalty was impossible. Liking the video so far? Hit the subscribe button down below if so. Now on to the next guest. Number 8. Fred Rogers, resented for clumsiness. Fred Rogers' disposition posed the reverse issue. a holiness that disrupted program flow. His portion proceeded at a kindergarten tempo, extended silences, minor crowd engagements, and doll displays. On stage, he would conclude an idea and pause, depriving Carson of a humorous cue. Producer timers indicated delays of 20 to 30 seconds. The quiet was wasted broadcast time. Nielsen figures noted a 3-point viewer drop. Carson, an expert in rhythm, found himself ensnared in Rogers' mild realm. There was no ill will, merely a basic incompatibility. Carson determined Rogers didn't fit talk show pacing. His aversion was strictly operational, not individual. Rogers fit on PBS, where forbearance was an asset. On The Tonight Show, forbearance halted progress. The reservations for him were apparently eliminated. Staff labeled Rogers as off-limits. Number 9. Charlton Heston, resented for chattering. Heston's approach turned into an on-air monologue. When Carson inquired about feats or vehicles, Heston embarked on lengthy orations. One 1987 episode included a 15-minute discourse on the American ideal. The crowd's chuckle frequency plummeted. Nielsen monitoring revealed a notable decline. Carson attempted to insert, but Heston plowed ahead, using the sofa as a platform. Producers observed the timer in dread as the part overflowed into ad slots, mentally tallying the lost program while two icons debated fruitlessly. The applause indicator overhead could have been extinguished during the live airing. Post that recording, Carson instructed schedulers, "Do not reschedule, I can't contribute," and viewers disengage. Heston's solemnity succeeded in grand tales, but late night required cadence. Johnny couldn't tolerate him dominating broadcast time. It was a commercial and program predicament, not a private one. Number 10. Orson Welles, resented for excessive talking. Orson Welles' pomposity could irritate Carson. Although they held reciprocal esteem, Welles handled each tale like a performance, with theatrical halts and expansive motions. He would start responding, and 20 minutes on still be midway, navigating detours on continental films and the Bard. Carson respected his brilliance, but became weary redirecting him. One 1982 episode witnessed Welles occupy the whole opening part, discussing vino, not cinema, actually wine. Carson's efforts to shift were dismissed. Producers gestured urgently, but Welles was inexorable. He reclined in his seat like royalty, entertained by an anxious attendant, and persisted in speaking, overriding every query Johnny posed. Narratives poured in convoluted sections about the continent, movies, and obligations. Johnny eyed the musicians and prompt cards for a bailout, but none existed. The audience chuckled, then hushed, aware they were observing a domination, not a dialogue. Carson's grin stiffened, his pacing futile against a visitor who declined to pause between lines. Each break he sought was engulfed before starting until he seemed like a supporting role on his own broadcast. Post that recording, Carson informed personnel. Schedule him infrequently. He's exceptional, but he believes he's performing solo. The admiration persisted, but so did wariness. Welles showed up sporadically thereafter, but always with rigid duration constraints enforced. Some celebrities who trod that Tonight Show platform breached the tacit regulations of Johnny's realm. "How you been, Joey?" "Hello." "Should have started out with 995 then. This would have been 460 by now. I suppose the thing is to get it when you can." "Are you whispering again?" "I know. You said I'm whispering last time. You talk very softly for me. I don't know why. Are you talking made a book?" "No." "Why?" "I think so." Have you seen those little whisper things that people get who are just on the edge of going completely deaf where you hear something? I'm going to get. You think it's me? Yeah. I think you're losing it. Well, maybe it is me, and now you want to know why I mistreat you. That's right. Now, people People don't understand when you come out here. I grew up with you listening to your music in high school and so forth. It just occurred to me. Crazy thought this afternoon. When you're in a romantic mood and you're trying to make out whose records do you put on, some disrespected the format. Others challenged his authority. A few simply could not function within the machine Carson had built, whether through ego, incompetence, or hostility. They pushed the king of late night past his carefully maintained cool. Carson's genius was making it look effortless. But that required guests who understood the dance. These 10 never learned the steps or worse, refused to follow them. The result was banishment from the most powerful desk in television. Johnny did not need to explain himself. The silence said everything. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thanks for watching.